Good evening and welcome. I'd like to call the meeting of March 10th Tewksbury Conservation Committee to order. Due to the open recent meeting law set forth by the governor, this meeting will be held virtually. There are a number of public hearings tonight, and I'll repeat this number throughout the night. If you wish to participate, the phone number is 978-771-0819. With that being said, first item on the agenda is approval of minutes of February 10th. Gentlemen, I know you got the minutes late. Did everybody have a chance to review them?
Yes, I did.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yep.
Okay. So any issues with the meetings or questions on the approval for minutes of February 10th?
No.
Okay. With no questions, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of February 10th, 2021?
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Mr. McMullen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Ronan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Sheehan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Now we need a motion to approve the minutes of February 24th, unless anybody has any questions, of 2021. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Mr. McMullen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Ronan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Sheehan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Okay. Item A is a continued public request for certificate of compliance, New Horizons Realty, 1201 Main Street, map 60, lot 39, DEP number 305997. This applicant has requested continuance to our next meeting. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. McMullen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Ronan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Sheehan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Before we go into the next item, I just want to remind everybody, if you're not speaking, please stay on mute. Okay, up next is item B, is a continued public hearing from February 24th. Notice of intent, Francesca Land LLC, care of Joseph Cataldo, 913 East Street, map 102, lot 52, DEP number 3051122. Before we get to the applicants, again, that phone number to participate is 978-771-0819. Is there anybody here representing the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Jim Hanley, Civil Design Consultant, along with Dick Kuko.
Okay. Floor is
All right.
yours.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
I'm going to share my screen, just if I can find it. Not see it. Share. Okay. So it's been a few weeks since the last time we met. Just to kind of give you a real quick once over to refresh everyone's memory, 913 East Street. There is an existing commercial facility here. The entire parking lot is essentially paved. What we are proposing to do, and we're working our way through some final comments with the planning board, only specific to sidewalk, is to provide a 7,000 plus or minus square foot building addition to maintain the same existing use. And that's about it. We've got about 800 square feet of additional impervious surface. And because there are wetlands centrally located off the property, we have nothing on our property. We then have the MBTA tracks, but on this property here to our south is a wetland pocket, and that was brought to our attention by Stefania, and because of that, it brought us into the commission for a notice of intent review. The changes to the stormwater pond are minimal. We've only got 800 plus or minus additional square feet. All we're doing is modifying the outlet structure just a little bit. And by doing so, have been able to bring the project into compliance with the stormwater management standards to the maximum extent practical. We've gone back and forth quite a few times with the engineering department. And at this point, we do not have any outstanding items related to either conservation or stormwater. So we thought it was a good time to get back in front of you and see if you have any additional questions, and if not, hope to close this out tonight.
Okay, Stefania, any issues?
Just real quick, the paint substance in the back of the property.
Yeah.
So I do see that the plan is to clean it up during the site work, but the town engineer had recommended that we do that beforehand. Is there any issue with doing that beforehand?
No, I don't think so. I think, you know, maybe if it's a condition of approval prior to construction, something like that, we could do that.
Okay.
What it is the existing garage is rented out to a company that cuts granite for countertops.
Okay.
And there's some spoils from the wet saw that ran out, and they kind of solidifies and make it look like paint, but it's really just tiny bits of granite. So, yeah, I mean, we're between a shovel and a backhoe, clean that up, and even prior to construction, that would be absolutely reasonable.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think Stefania, that maybe when you go out to inspect the erosion control prior to the construction, that'll be cleaned up. You'll be able to view it at that time.
Okay.
Okay.
The other thing I just want to make sure the last letter I have from the DPW from March 9th, comment number 5 about the watershed plan. I just want to make sure that there will be nothing that comes about to address this comment that would affect anything on the site.
So that's a good point. So one of the comments that he has is that because we only need to capture 800 additional square feet on the site, the easiest way to do it is to pull it off the roof and put it into a subsurface system. We just don't have architecturals done, so we don't do that until we know locally we can actually build something. So what we suggested Monday night to the planning board was to make that a condition of a pre-construction condition. And at that point, we'll have a roof plan, we'll have it designed from the architect. It's really not a civil issue, it's the architects. We'd be, you know, happy to, you know, have the same condition here as well.
Okay.
All right. Actually, Stefania's touched base on that, the white substance that I was going to ask you about, but I'm still going to ask you a little bit more about that. Is that going to be a continuing process, or is there going to be a system in place that prevents the white stuff from going back into the?
Yeah. So it is not going to be a continuing practice. We're going to have a water circulation system. The applicant is aware of it. He knows he needs to address it. The final solution we don't know, but what we do know is that we can't do what we're doing, which is it runs outside the garage door and outside. We can't have this stuff in the stormwater system because when it dries, it gets really tight like concrete. So we can't have that there. So we are aware of it. He's got to come up with a system to allow the tenant to still use the building, but to be able to operate the equipment safely. So that's something he's working on.
Okay. Again, this is a public meeting. Before I open it up to the board, if anybody's interested in participating, the number again is 978-771-0819. Brian, you can interrupt if somebody does call, and I'm going to shift to board members. Mr. McMullen, do you have anything?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ronan?
No, all my questions were answered. I was just worried about that granite runoff stuff, and it seems like it's being taken care of.
Okay. Mr. Sheehan?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Walsh?
No question.
Okay, the only thing I'm gonna say is that included in the order of condition is that that site is cleaned up before construction. and add to the standard order of conditions. And I would also like the applicant to provide the Conservation Commissioner with the final plan of how they're gonna deal with this white stuff coming out the garage door. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, it sounds fair to me. Yep.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I think we should probably, just so, it's probably more technical instead of calling it the white stuff because none of us really have a handle on it. We should just call it the granite slurry.
but we can call it a pollutant if you want to.
No, I'm just saying so that we, instead of saying, I'm just thinking, I don't want someone to come in and say, all right, now they're cutting black granite and it turns out to be black powder. I want them to know that the commission doesn't want any slurry out there, regardless of what the color of it is. That's all the
That's
point I
right.
was trying to make.
Okay. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the notice of intent. Oh, actually, I'm still waiting for the, anybody from the public, Brian?
No callers, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and we did that a minute or so ago. So first thing we have to do is close the public hearing. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
What was this? This is for motion to close the public hearing for notice of intent Francesca Land LLC, care of Joseph Cataldo, 913 E Street, map 102, lot 52, DEP 3051102. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Ms. McMullen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Ronan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Sheehan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Now, on the motion to approve the notice of intent for Francesca Land LLC, care of Joseph Cataldo, 913 East Street, map 102, lot 52, DEP number 3051122, with the standard order of conditions to include a plan for the slurry and the current slurry that's out there be cleaned up before construction starts. And Stefania will go out and review before construction starts. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Mr. McMullen, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Mr. Ronan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Sheehan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members.
Okay. All right. Next on the agenda is continued public hearing. Notice of intent, Michael Saccone, MDR Construction, 935 Main Street, map 49, lot 69, DEP number 3051126. Is there anyone here for that?
I'm here, Mr. Chairman. Andy Street, Civil Design Consultants, along with the applicant, Mike Saccone is here as well for MDR.
Okay, again, this is a public hearing. I'll repeat the number numerous times. If you'd like to participate, it's 978-771-0819. Okay, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Andy Street, Civil Design Consultants. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, everybody see the plan okay? Is that showing up? Yeah?
Yep.
So we were last here, I believe in January, we opened this public hearing, and just to kind of refresh the commission's memory, this is the site at 935 Main Street. It's the former police station site, so it was partially developed prior to Mr. Saccone getting involved. There was a structure, a couple curb cuts, driveways, things like that. The site is largely in the commercial zone, and there's a little bit of residential zone, but as far as the wetlands go, almost the entire western portion, the right-hand side of this plan is wetlands, and then the intermittent stream that's Strongwater Brook passes through here as well. So bordering vegetated wetlands, this dark dash line you see is also the floodplain elevation. I believe that's 115 is located on the property. In 2018, there was an ORAD issue to certify this wetland line. So we're working off the wetland line that was approved several years ago for this design. Really, the design hasn't changed. The intent of the design hasn't changed much since we were here in January, but we've made some changes, and we've had a lot of back and forth with the planning board in particular to kind of refine the layout, and that has resulted in some differences that impact the interests of this commission as well. So, you know, the site, the proposed development, we now have one curb cut comes in. There's a long driveway that will serve 18 residential units spread out over 5 buildings. So 8 of these buildings, excuse me, are townhomes, duplex townhomes, and then this front building is a mixed-use building that will have 2 residential units and then a commercial office space on the bottom. So that commercial use is just strictly office, and the rest is all residential housing. The 100-foot buffer zone. And then in the rear of the property, we have this parking lot. So a lot of these parking spaces, 20 of them, are dedicated for the Tewksbury Housing Authority, which is the property just off the top of the page. So 20 of those spaces are for the Housing Authority, and then there's 4 visitor spaces that will be for use for development in there as well. So as far as changes go, I mean, we have the 100-foot buffer zone shown in this pinkish line coming through the site. So we have portions of the driveway, some of the parking, portions of these. If not all portions of these 4 buildings on the right-hand side of the plan. That's fairly consistent with what we originally proposed. Same amount of buildings, same size of buildings. They have moved slightly closer to the wetlands. Part of the feedback from the town engineer was to shift these buildings a little further away from the parking aisle, so they are slightly back. We have very minor disturbance in the 50-foot no building zone, but that's really limited to decks. It's about 9 square feet. It's limited to decks, and I believe, Stefania, maybe you can weigh in, but I think there was some back and forth in my office that those may not even qualify as buildings. But even if they were, we're still well below the threshold to allow that work within the 50-foot no build zone. And I have the grading plan, utility plan here as well, just to give you a sense of the work that's taking place in the buffer zones. All the stormwater from roofs, from paved surfaces, and some of the grassed areas as well is captured for the pavement, it's captured in catch basins and then piped into subsurface systems where it'll be infiltrated to the best extent it can. And then we have an outlet pipe. There's a system in the front here with an outlet pipe that heads towards the wetlands, and then a system in the back, again, with an outlet pipe that heads towards the wetlands. Those systems are designed to get the necessary pre-treatment, necessary infiltration to match peak flows. We meet water quality volumes, recharge volume, all of that. And then the roofs, several of the buildings, the roof areas will be infiltrated in their own subsurface systems located behind the buildings, which we've been careful to keep those systems beyond 50 feet from the wetlands. I think the only other notable change, well, maybe there's 2, I guess. We have the buildings have shifted back. We have a little more parking that's located in the buffer zone. Again, all that impervious is pitched towards a catch basin and then captured and infiltrated before it outlets towards the wetlands. I think the other notable change is the previous application. We were claiming a portion, a very small portion, really the front part of the entrance as redevelopment. This site has rapid infiltration rates, so there needed to be 44% pre-treatment prior to infiltrating, and we weren't providing that just for this front portion of the driveway. And with the case being made that a portion of the site is redevelopment, so all the standards didn't apply. But in this new design, we are capturing all the water, and we are providing that 44% pre-treatment, so we do meet all of the stormwater management standards and the standards of the local bylaw as well. I think really where we stand as far as the overall permitting process, we're still working through. We're still waiting for technical review from DPW and the town engineer. We've come to this layout, and I think this is the layout we intend to proceed. Largely, the layout we intend to proceed with both this commission and the planning board, but we thought there was some changes enough. We're certainly not seeking any action tonight, but we think there's changes enough that it was worth bringing to the commission for discussion if there's any comments or concerns. we're certainly happy to address those as we move forward.
Okay. The snow storage, where is it? Where did that go? It was there one day and next day it's gone.
Yeah, so that is shown on the site plan. So we have a pocket of it in the top left corner of the plan. We show a couple areas between the buildings here, and we do have a pocket shown over here as well. That's between 50 and 25 feet from the resource area. And I think the operations and maintenance plan that was recently submitted has some updated language that discusses removing snow, particularly from this area, and then in the spring restoring that. So if there's debris left over or it's a mess in that area in particular, it gets cleaned up. And if the grass needs to be reseeded, there needs to be some more loam, things like that. That will happen as well.
So will there be any permanent snow fence or any type of erosion control in that particular area?
Not permanent, no. I mean, we'll certainly have erosion controls along there for construction, but we're not proposing anything like that right now. No.
So they're just going to plow, whether they're plowing trash or not, right into the wetland?
Well, the idea is that we're 30 feet or so from the wetland, and then if as with all snow storage areas, if it exceeds this or gets any closer to the wetland, it will be trucked out. And the areas are designated on this plan, and if the amounts exceed it, it needs to be removed from the site.
Okay, my next question is, are these rentals or are these condominiums?
So Mr. Sacconi's current plan is to hold on to this property and have them as rentals, and then for the commercial space, he's talked about using that for his own business office for MDR construction.
Okay, so MDR construction. So there's going to be it's going to be office. It's not going to be construction vehicles on the site at all the time.
Correct. Yeah, just office space. Yes. Yep.
There will
Okay.
never be construction vehicles on the site.
Okay, so is this a public road that is maintained by the town, or is it maintained by yourself?
It's maintained by myself, sir.
Okay. Board members, any questions?
No, he just answered an important question, which was asked by you, Pat, was I know Mr. Sacconi will keep it very clean at the snow dump sites and everything else. But I'm good.
Okay, Mr. McMullen,
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ronan,
No questions.
Mr. Walsh.
I got one question. These storm tech chambers, how often is maintenance inspections being done, and who are they being done by?
So another part of the updated O&M plan, we have language from the stormwater handbook talking about, I think it's semi-annual maintenance, but we also included the manufacturer's literature on those storm techs in particular. Off the top of my head, I'd have to pull up and read it, but it does specify the amount of times these things need to be maintained, and that's what's going to be in the record, and that's what will need to be held to. So that's straight from the manufacturer with their guidelines, kind of in conjunction with what the DEP recommends for these subsurface systems in general.
Okay. Makes sense. So that's usually the part of the process that fails, is after the construction is built.
Right. Yep.
Yep.
Well,
Okay.
I think, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You finish.
I was just going to say the other benefit of having Mr. Sacconi own and maintain this is it'll be in his best interest to have this site cleaned and everything working properly as well. So.
And we currently we have several. I have several other properties that we vacuum every spring. We send the back truck in there to clean out these units every spring. So we are on top of it. As the board may or may not know, my business is in the town. It's been for 20 years. My primary residence is in the town, and I'm certainly accessible to anyone. I want this property to be kept pristine. There'll be no trash. There'll be no trash from the snow. The snow operation will be conducted by myself and my employees. I don't foresee any issues at all.
Okay, the next question I have is, what about trash pickup? Is there a dumpster involved here, or is there a town pickup? Or
This property, there's been discussions with the planning board. The residential stuff will be picked up by the town. The commercial space will be picked up by myself. I do not want a dumpster on the site.
Okay, that was some concern. All right, so the town picks up the trash and
Only on the residential, Mr. Chairman. On the commercial
No
space,
residential.
I'll be responsible.
okay, so that's going to be the indoor storage of the trash, I'm assuming, since you're not going to have a dumpster.
That is correct.
Okay,
We currently have a dumpster at 1693, and I have dumpsters at 1390. It'll be our own employees that will be bagging it and taking it once away. So we will not generate a lot of trash from that office facility.
okay. Stefania,
No, a lot of my comments were addressed, so I don't have much. I would just maybe recommend when it comes time to issuing an order of conditions, maybe we condition like two no snow storage signs, one at the no disturb zone in the back of the lot, and then one maybe in the front of the lot at the no disturb zone.
okay, and we're still waiting for Mr. Hardiman?
Correct.
Okay, I really don't see any issues, but I will wait for Mr. Hardiman's report. And in the meantime, Stefania, you can prepare the order of conditions, so maybe with any luck at the next meeting, we'll be able to act on this particular applicant.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen, actually, I gotta open it up to the public. Phone number is 978-771-0819. Brian, interrupt me if somebody has called. And Mr. Street, you were about to say something.
Nope.
Mr. Chairman, that was me. May I
Okay.
ask a question?
Sure.
As far as the feedback you're waiting for from Mr. Hardiman at the town of Tewksbury, are there specifics? Are we aware of what we're waiting for?
What are we waiting for, Stefania? Is that the letter from?
Yeah, I think he's still reviewing the most up-to-date plans, so we want to make
Okay.
sure that there's no outstanding issues, specifically with stormwater, and that there's going to be no changes to any of the how the site is set up right now.
Thank you, Stefania.
Okay, Brian, has anybody called in?
We have no callers, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I'm just going to move on and entertain a motion to continue this. Gentlemen, how about our next meeting? Do you think you will have your planning board issues and all that stuff done by our next meeting? Which is on,
Sorry.
when is our next meeting, Stefania?
March 24th.
Does the planning board meet before March 24th?
Yes, they do.
22nd.
Okay, so why don't we just continue it to our next meeting of March 24th? Is that satisfactory?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. McMullen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Ronan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Sheehan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh, how do you vote? Chair votes aye as well. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, gentlemen.
Thank you
I'd
very
like to
much.
say thank you to the commission.
Okay. Which one was continued here? That's continued. It's continued. That was. Oh. That was approved. All right. So now we're on to item D, notice of intent. Artie Martell, 920 and 978 Livingston Street. Map lot 77-2 and 63-51, DEP number 3051131. This is a public hearing, so the phone number is 978-771-0819 if anybody wishes to participate. And is there anyone here on behalf of the applicant?
Jim Hanley, Civil Design Consultants, Mr. Chairman, along with Dick Kuko and I Martell himself. All right. I would like to share my screen and kind of walk through the project if that works for you.
That's fine with me.
Okay. So here we are. We are along Livingston Street. Um, we have two parcels that are combined here. We have 920 Livingston Street and we have 978 Livingston Street. 920 has frontage directly on Livingston Street. There's a single-family residential there. It also has 7.5 acres, which is basically all of this area back here where the proposed development will be. And we've combined this with 978 Livingston Street, which also has a single-family house, has about 1.5 acres, and has its own separate 40-foot frontage area along Livingston Street here. So when we combine both of these parcels, we end up with about 9 acres, about 2.5 acres of wetland. You can see here, just to kind of orient you a little bit, we're south of Blue Spruce, which is right here. We're north of Pinnacle, which is further down here. We have the high tension line power easement, which is 200 feet across in the blue area here. So just to kind of orient you a little bit more, this is just a screenshot off of Google Earth, and you can see 920 is a single-family residential, 978 is a single-family residential here. There's an existing driveway that we'll basically remove or replace with a private roadway that'll be 20 to 24 feet in width, depending on where it is. That'll provide access down to this yellow circle, which will have 3 additional lots on. So this is what it ends up looking like in plan view here. So the proposed development, it includes 5 lots in total, but we only have 3 additional lots. So the 920, we end up carving out 1 acre. That ends up being a standalone acre and is not part of this subdivision. And then we end up having to reconfigure the lot that exists currently as 978. That again will have 1 acre, but will front on the new private roadway. And that brings us down and provides access for our 3 additional lots. Let's see. 4 bedrooms, we have approximately 450 feet of roadway. The pavement is 24 feet for the first 50 feet up by the intersection to allow for vehicles to come in and exit out safely. And then it shrinks down a 20-foot wide roadway, which is sufficient for the anticipated use of it, and it reduces some impervious surface and helps with our drainage a little bit as well. Essentially, the way the stormwater works is that everything basically drains from a high point of Livingston Street down to the wetlands, which are located essentially start basically at the power lines. You can see the wetland line here kind of bisects the lot right here, and for the most part, everything below that is wet. And then we have an isolated pocket up here that receives some flow from a culvert that drains some of the roadway. So everything essentially drains off of Livingston Street, comes down a hill into the wetlands and into that power line easement. And what we are proposing to do is to come in and essentially allow the roadway, which is currently a driveway, it's currently already there for the most part, basically to just continue to drain from Livingston Street down to the back of the cul-de-sac. We have a set of catch basins about 350 feet in from Livingston Street, and then another set at the end of the cul-de-sac. That'll discharge through a pipe and into a pond that'll be located within the open space. We'll provide an access easement to allow for maintenance of this pond. And the pond has been designed to meet the stormwater management standards that DEP has and also the town has. And all of this will be maintained by the homeowners association. So this is not a public road. This will be a private road. And the pond and the drainage associated with it will be owned, maintained in perpetuity by the homeowners association, which essentially will be these or 3 or 4 lots here. We submitted this to the town, I believe it was February 10th, give or take. We've had a handful of conversations with DPW and planning specific to the intersection. We're working through some of those issues now, but we don't have a technical review comment letter prepared that I can try to address for you tonight. We're still waiting for that from DPW. We did talk with them earlier today. It's something that they're in the process of preparing. I just don't have it yet. With that being said, Dick, Arnie, I'm not sure if you guys have anything to add, but I think that gives you the overview of the project.
I think I'm good. Just wanted to reiterate that the project and the open space will be the responsibility of the homeowners association.
Let me ask you this question. On the homeowners association, is it 3 homes or is it all 5?
It's 4.
It's 4. So it's going to be the one that's 2A?
Yes, yeah, so that's
Okay.
978 right there, and that would be included. The one up here, 920, which is 1A, is not included, because that's a by right lot, an acre with 200 feet of frontage on Livingston Street.
So it's going to be the 3 new homes plus the existing home.
Correct.
So that's going to be 4 homes, and the current owner of that particular lot is on board with the association?
Correct, yep.
Okay. Stefania, any issues?
Just a few things that I spoke with Jim about during our department meetings on this, but I'll say them here for the commission as well. So some of the things that I recommended is that they add an erosion control around lot 4. I didn't see it on the plans, so I think just where it still is kind of buffer zone over there, we should just extend it over there. I recommended that they do double erosion controls near wetland A between the infiltration basin and the wetland, just given kind of the current slopes and the slopes that are proposed. And then I do recommend that the open space is marked out with some type of like permanent demarcation, just to discourage encroachment from the residents extending their lawns into that area. And then the one thing that I do want to mention, did meet Norse out on the site. We made one really minor change to the wetland flags. I'm sure they have communicated that with Jim, but it was just to remove wetland flag 11A. But that's it.
So I did speak with Norse. We'll make that change. And we have your comments, Stefania. We just haven't modified the plan set yet. We're waiting to try to do that. Hopefully once we get the technical comments from DPW. So I have this noted, and it will be updated on the set of plans that we've revised.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we don't have any issues with the comments that Stefania has listed.
Okay. Board members, any questions?
I have no questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. McMillan?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ronan?
Yes, I do have a question or concern. The open space, a lot of that is within the New England Power Company's easement. So I think last meeting, New England Power Company was for a totally different project, putting some sort of substation into one of their easements. In the future, they did something similar over here. How does that conflict with the open space? Who does their easement supersede the open space plan, or does the open space take precedent at that point?
So the property is
Yeah.
owned by the homeowners association, but the power company has an easement on it. So anything that they can legally do relative to adding transmission or rerunning transmission lines or whatever they have to put in there. Unfortunately, the homeowners association can't stop that, but that does not relieve them from having to go before the commission to get permission to do any of that work, should it be within 100 feet of the wetlands. We would like it. We would like it if we could tell them take their poles out of there, but unfortunately we can't.
You're dreaming.
Yeah. And just so you know, this is kind of unique. A lot of times we come to you with a site plan that has open space that's like all wooded, right? Where this is different, you can see in this photo here that a lot of it's within the easement and it's grazed, it's like pasture land basically. So it's not like it's not like if National Grid goes in there, they're gonna be disturbing significantly. It's already disturbed in that area. So just another consideration.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Walsh.
No questions.
And I have no more questions. Is there anybody on the line, Brian? Did I lose
Sorry
it?
about that. We have no callers, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, all right. I have no more questions. I think the plan looks pretty reasonable, but I still think we have to wait for Mr. Hardeman's report before we can approve, just in case anything changes. And we can have Stefania, can you prepare a order of conditions for our next meeting? And send a copy to Mr. Hanley so we know everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, do you have a problem with that going to our next meeting? Or are we all set?
No, that's perfectly understandable, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. With that being said, I am going to ask for a motion to continue. Notice of intent, Ani Montel, 920 and 978 Livingston Street, map and lot 77-2 and 6351, DEPW 3051131. Can I have a motion to continue to our next meeting?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. McMullen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Ronan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Sheehan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh, how do you vote?
Aye.
And chair votes aye as well. I think I'm going to start recording when I read the first part so I can just click it on so I don't have to keep reading. Gentlemen, we'll see you at our next meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, I got to save that one. I know for a conservation commission, we got more paper. I think we must have killed the whole forest here. Next on the agenda is item E, public hearing notice of intent. Roger Gauthier, Tewksbury Hospital, DPH, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, 630 E Street, map 89, lot 1, DEP 3051130. Is there anyone here for that?
Yep.
Okay, I'm just gonna, this is a public hearing, so I'm gonna read the phone number one more time. If anybody in the public is interested in participating, it's 978-771-0819. Now, before you begin, we have is this an entirely new submittal?
No, we simply removed the stream crossing, but everything else is more or less the same.
Okay. All right, the floor is yours, sir.
Okay. I will just share.
Oh, introduce yourself for the record, too, please. Okay.
Sure. My name is Eric Wilhelmsen. I'm with CDW Consultants. The Tewksbury State Hospital has an existing water line which runs through the wetlands, crosses under the Marshall Brook, and continues on through another section of wetlands before it gets into an upland area. the pipe has burst somewhere in this general area, and we're proposing to run a new water line down the access road over the existing stream crossing and then turning up through this upland area and connecting back into the line. On the previous submission, we did have, I believe it was 3 48-inch culverts in place of the existing stream crossing. We're going to upgrade it, but after going through the comments by the town engineer and some concerns over the wetland impacts, to construct that crossing, we removed those culverts. We also changed this area here and simplified it a bit more, kept it to the minimum to put in the water line. But it's essentially what we had submitted before, new water line running down the access road.
Okay. Stefania, any issues?
So with the changes, I mean, a lot of my comments don't really apply to the project anymore. I think the biggest thing, and I communicated this with them, is that we really want to just make sure extra precautions going to be taken during the work when they're installing the pipe over the stream crossing. So we just want to make sure that, I mean, we don't excavate too deep and then all of a sudden we're impacting the stream. So they gave some ideas on how we could do this. So they recommended that we have a monitor out there, and I think that that's a good idea. Just during this portion of the work, we can definitely have the consultant out there just to make sure that there's no issues, and that if there are issues, they're taken care of correctly.
Okay. Again, this is a public hearing. If anybody's interested, it's 978-771-0819. Brian, interrupt me if anybody comes on the line, and I'm going to move on to board members. Mr. McMullen.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ronan.
So I thought in the last meeting or at the site visit, it was discussed that the current culverts are kind of in a bad shape and currently undersized. What was decided on that?
Yeah, so the existing crossing, it's hard to tell exactly what it is. It's likely just an old fieldstone crossing. So the concern was that if we did upgrade this to, the 3 48-inch culverts, we'd be increasing the flow, which could have some detrimental impacts to the next culvert downstream, as well as increasing the velocity on the other side and maybe cause some, bank erosion and other issues. So in reviewing all the options, it seemed like the safest thing to do to avoid drastically changing how this wetland is functioning is just to keep it the way it is.
And then, so the pipe is going to be placed in a trench. Is that going to be fully exposed, even after everything is said and done?
So over the crossing, we're putting in a shallow pipe that's about 2 feet down, total excavation, give or take, and it'll be an insulated water line. And we're doing that so we don't have to excavate down into where the stream is sort of flowing under this crossing. So we're trying not to impact or construct within where the flow is occurring.
I thought not around this, the crossing, but I thought I read that. Trying to find it.
Well, elsewhere it's going to be a typical 5-foot cover water line.
Be all set, Mr. Ronan, or you?
Yeah, I'm just in the new proposed project summary. It says will be installed in a shallow trench.
Yeah, that's specifically over where the stream crossing is. That's where it's going to be shallow, to stay out of the stream flow itself.
All right, and there is 2 feet down on that stream crossing. It seemed like there was the culvert was, you know, almost exposed where the gravel road was going over it.
There's about just about 2 feet of elevation difference between the top of the bank and where that road elevation is. So we have just enough room to really get in this shallow water line without getting too far into the stream crossing, which is why someone should be out there while they're constructing it, just to make sure everything goes smooth.
All right, no further questions.
Mr. Sheehan,
I'm good.
Mr. Walsh. Okay, I have no questions, and it doesn't seem like we had any callers. Is that correct, Brian?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. No callers.
Okay, so if we have no callers, I'm going to make a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. McMullen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Ronan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Sheehan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh, how do you vote? Chair votes aye as well. Now I'm going to entertain a motion to improve the notice of intent for Roger Gauthier, Tewksbury Hospital, DPH, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, 630 East Street, map 89, lot 1, DEP 3051130, with the standard order of conditions to include a monitor when construction is being done around the culvert that has been noted. Does that sound reasonable, Stefania?
Yes.
Okay. Have a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Mr. McMullen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Ronan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Sheehan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh, how do you vote? And chair votes aye as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. And I just threw my agenda away.
What are we going to do with you, Pat?
I don't know. I got so much paper here that. Let me see. I can just read it off of this one. This next item is item F, correct?
Correct.
Notice of intent, Mark Roca, 1023 and 1029 East Street, map 103, lots 80 and 129, DEP number pending. This is a public hearing. Phone number is 978-771-0819 if somebody's interested in participating. Is there anyone here on behalf of the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. David Plunkett, representing the applicant. The applicant is in my office with me here tonight. Also here tonight is Andy Street, who's the supervisor and engineer for the project, and Dick Hugo, who is also on the team. Mr. Chairman, just to give you a
Before
little
you begin, Mr. Plunkett, just want to inform you that we will not be taking a vote on this tonight because you are lacking a DEP number. So this will be just basically an information and presentation.
Sure, understood. That's
Okay.
fine, Mr.
I just
Chairman.
want to make that up front.
Okay. Before I hand off to Andy, just to give the the board a little oversight of what's going on here. The business that's going to be moving to the site is a business that's been a mainstay in the town for many, many years. American Gutter over on Main Street, has been for a number of years. The business has been in operation for decades. You know, we're now in this where, in terms of discussions with the town at the current location, was that it would best serve everyone involved to get a spot that was in more of a industrial zone and off of the Route 38 corridor. And so this is the perfect site for my clients, that they're able to stay in town, the town that they've been in operation for all these years, an important part of the town of Tewksbury business community. And this site works perfectly for them, that they're going to have this as their central location for the American Gutter. Plus, there's another offshoot business that they have, JR Transport, that will now be able to be consolidated into the one location. So it works out well in the sense that the site is zoned for the type of business operation that's going to go on here. It had been permitted years ago, that just because of the what was permitted didn't get built up. This is the opportunity to make use of this site, keep this business in town, and it's I'll hand it off to Andy with that.
Great, thanks, David. I'm going to share my screen here to show the plans. So this is the site in total. It's two parcels, 1029 and 1023 East Street. Oh, here, let's see. Okay, so this site is, as Mr. Plunkett just alluded to, we've got some history. There's a prior approval for a much larger, I think it was a 26,000 or so square foot industrial building. But even more than that, there's a history of environmental issues out here. There's some contamination from a previous owner that was identified and then worked through with the DEP through various testing and monitoring wells and borings and things that eventually resulted in the site, a good portion of the site being capped and subject to an AUL. And within that AUL, which is shown, the limits of which are shown on the plan here in this gray dashed line, everything in there is there's some use limitations on what can't be done here, and that, as I get through this presentation, has certainly been considered, and we've been working with an LSP to review the requirements of that AUL and make sure we're complying with them with this design, particularly as it relates to grading and stormwater and things like that. So the site right now currently vacant. There's a curb cut along East Street, but it's largely gravel and some overgrowth and things like that. But there's no structures on the site as it stands today. The proposal, the applicant's proposal, it's really a three-phase approach. The initial phase and the phase that is most imminent here is really what I'm drawing the box around here. It includes the construction of the building. It's about a 3,200 square foot footprint that will serve as office space, and there'll be a garage bay for picking up materials and things like that. That building will be surrounded by parking areas. Site layout plan. Yeah, that's better. So the building is surrounded by parking areas. There'll be two curb cuts that come in to access and egress the site. They'll be fenced in to really just allow American Gutter and JR Transport vehicles and employees through. Phase 2 would be construction of this parking lot towards the top of the page, this long, skinny parking lot. Should the business continue to grow and additional parking is needed, that would be constructed. It's another bituminous concrete parking area here with a third curb cut further up East Street. As part of phase 1, I left this out, but this area towards the rear would be gravel. So it'll be a pervious surface, the gravel that could be used for parking or things like that. And then in phase 3, the idea would be to pave that. So you now have a bituminous area here that connects to the parking area and asphalt that would be built under phase 1. This area, you know, I mentioned the AUL, that as part of the cap, there's a retaining wall that really wraps around a good portion of the site. You can see it in this, this line I'm following here, this kind of dark gray line, but that's a retaining wall several feet high that encloses the fill and the cap, and sets the grade at the top of the construction area. More or less behind that wall is bordering vegetated wetlands. These were flagged by Norse Environmental, and most recently, I think maybe as recently as yesterday, the day before, Stefania walked that with Maureen from Norse Environmental. I know there's some comments about flag locations and things like that, but those any changes that came of that site walk are not shown in these plans and will be made as we move forward. So off the bordering, the BVW, we have the town's 25-foot no disturb zone shown in this red line, red dash line here, wraps around parcel. The 50-foot no building zone is the blue line shown through here. And then we have the 100-foot buffer zone, this kind of lighter pink red line here coming through. So within 100 feet of that wetland, and now I should just say that all this work is taking place on top of the cap and above the wall. So there's no work proposed outside of the wall or below the wall near the wetlands. The work in the 100-foot is really limited to, well, phase one, where there's some gravel areas, there's certainly some pavement. For phase two, there'd be additional pavement and parking. The building is really just clipped down in the corner by the 100-foot buffer zone. So for the most part, the building itself is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, and it certainly is outside of the 50-foot no building zone. So the 25-foot, I mean, that's something that again came up in part of Stefania's review letter. We do show so this 25-foot, at least as it pertains to this development, is again contained on top of this cap. It's not a woods or anything. It's previously disturbed. So we have an area that was capped and permitted through the environment, to the DP and this commission to fill it in, provide that retaining wall. And what we are proposing in that 25-foot is some minor grading. We have some grading that comes around the edge of these parking areas. There's an outlet pipe that's associated with a stormwater system here. And then there's really small pieces of parking area itself, a little bit of pavement. But again, you know, that at least according to Norse, that wetland's kind of low value. And then the 25-foot itself is inside or on top of this capped and previously disturbed area that would be further enhanced, you know, be planted with, you know, you have some landscaping, grass and loam and seed to stabilize that area and improve the condition that it is in today. From a stormwater perspective, the dotted areas you see in this phase one associated with the building, we have the parking, the entrance drives through here, that's supposed to be pervious pavement. So the idea, part of the challenge with this site is because it's capped, we're really limited in how we can grade it. We can't cut. So everything needs to be at or above existing grade as it is today, and was designed as part of that the formation of the AUL. So we use this porous pavement in order to capture and infiltrate. I believe as part of your packet, PAR Corporation has been retained as an LSP for this to review all the documentation that goes with the AUL and the capping and the environmental monitoring, all of that, and issued that memo saying that this cap is designed to be pervious. It's pervious today. It's grass and gravel today. And so infiltrating into the cap, certainly in the way that we're proposing, be acceptable. So that's using that and the grades, we've come up with this design for the phase one. Each of these phases is designed with its own separate stormwater system. So the idea being that for phase one, he can build this completely, the building, the parking, have its own pervious pavement stormwater system that can be maintained and work for that area. And then in phase two, should this be built, there's a subsurface system located in this area here, further up towards the top of the page. And this area is actually outside of the AUL. It's outside of the cap. There wouldn't be environmental issues, so there shouldn't be any issues with infiltration over in that area there. But again, this would only be built should this parking lot be built, and it's not needed for stormwater controls of the phase one development that goes with the building and parking. And then for phase 3, should this be paved, there's another separate infiltration system located off the rear of the property here that would capture the stormwater flows from really exclusively that new paved surface. So along that line, that in phase 1 will divide gravel and pavement. There's a break line in the grading, so the pavement that goes with phase 1 heads towards the pervious, and then in phase 3 it would head towards the back and into that system that again would only be built should that area get paved. Really what we're seeking, and I know it's not tonight, but ultimately what we're seeking is approval of all 3 phases. So there'd be one of conditions to, in the event that phase 2 or phase 3 moves forward, there wouldn't need to be a separate application. Assuming it's done in the proper time frame, there wouldn't need to be a separate application to this commission. The plans and the design would all have been reviewed and approved, all that. So we're intending on meeting with planning on the 22nd, I believe. That will be the first meeting with them. We're here to open this up tonight, and I don't know, Dick, if you have something that I'll gladly turn it over to you now as well. And if not, then we're all 3 of us are here to answer questions from the commission.
The only thing I would add, Mr. Chairman, is I'm not sure that any of the current sitting members were on the commission at the time when the previous project was permitted, but part of the remediation for the site was to raise this site up above a certain level. There was quite a bit of material that was removed under supervision of DEP. It had to be taken off to New York or someplace that was a proper site for the disposal. Basically what was here was what they call automobile fluff. It was back in the 50s, it was kind of common to get fill from some of the local automobile dismantling properties and use it for fill, which obviously we all know now is not something that would be allowed. So the purpose of that work with the DEP back around 2007 or so was to remove the real bad spots that were contamination went deeper. The other areas, the remediation for that was to put a cap on it. And as Andy stated previously, that adding, unlike some hazardous material, adding additional water to this is not a detriment. It actually helps the situation out. So just wanted to give you a little history on how the site came about. So the wall had to be built to contain the fill to bring it to the proper level so that there was the proper clearance between groundwater, whatever waste was still left under the ground deemed to be suitable, and then to cap it so that there weren't any airborne particulates or anything like that that would cause a public health risk. So I'm mostly here to speak on the history of the site if you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Stefania, any issues?
I did issue a comment letter on this.
I did read it.
So, I mean, I'm not going to read every comment that I had. The big things are just the changes to the wetland flags, the work in the no disturb zone. I do think that if any work is proposed in the no disturb zone, it should be more of a restoration. Like I'm okay with seed and letting the area just go back to a natural state. I don't think it should be a landscaped area that would need maintenance in the future. And then, let's see, I just had questions about there's a man-made trench and a pipe in the back of the site where a portion of the retaining wall looks like was removed at some point. I just wasn't sure if this was permitted and installed as part of the remediation activities or when this was done. And then I just kind of have questions about how the construction will kind kind of incorporate the recommendations from the LSP, and maybe like if the LSP is going to be on site during site work, or how that will work.
Yes, the LSP has to be there anytime we're doing any excavating, but to answer your other questions, I'm going to share my screen if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
That's fine.
I don't know how that works with the Andes, but okay. So to kind of answer some of the questions that Stefani brought up, this was the site plan from 2007. Pretty much everything was about the same. There was a major flooding problem on the opposite side of the tracks and down all the way to Shawshene Street. There was also a real bad flooding problem up here on East Street. So part of the original proposal when this site was being built was to at least put in the retaining walls, mitigate the site, and allow for this ditch to be dug to provide relief from the stormwater. That was something that was to be permitted and done by the Tewksbury DPW. The applicant, the owner of the property at the time, when working with another developer, did the work in this area, replaced the culverts and so forth, and then this ditch was dug throughout to go down, and it goes all the way across down into Shawshene Street. And that alleviated all the major flooding that took place out here on East Street, and it also, in cooperation with some other work that the town did and some private people did at the power company, alleviated the flooding, and the beavers were removed. So that's how that ditch got in place. The this whole area in here where the wall is missing, this was approved as part of the stormwater detention area. So in order to construct that stormwater area, this section of the wall was left out. So part of the proposal will be to put that section of the wall back in again. But the from efforts that were done by the town, the power company, and others down on Shawshene Street, there was never a need to completely build this ditch area through here to alleviate flooding. It's been since, I think, 2009 or 10 when that work was done, and there hasn't been any flooding out there on East Street since. And you can just see how the wetlands have migrated over the years, and they basically kind of come up to the wall. But that's what the history is on that that ditch. And we will be putting the wall back in, and this whole system of drainage is no longer going to be used for the project because the wetlands have crept up into this area. You can see this was all upland back in 2007. So I hope that sheds some light on that ditch and pipe and other things in that area.
Okay. Stefania, any more issues?
Nope.
Okay.
If I might add, Mr. Chairman, just regarding the AUL and the LSP, just a little more information there. So they're in the process of preparing soil management plan, health and safety plan. There's a number of documents that need to be prepared to comply that all pertain to construction activities and what can and can't be done, the treatment of soils, and certainly if the commission would like, we're happy to provide those once they're prepared and they will be adhered to if and when construction moves forward.
Okay, I just have one question. Since the DEP assisted in the mitigation of this property, do they have to oversee the entire project now?
My understanding, and we can get clarification from the LSP, my understanding is that there are procedures in place to allow work at this parcel. So we're coming for this commission for their approval, and I will confirm all of this. But I believe the order's been closed for the capping itself. There's some ongoing monitoring, things like that need to take place, but it's been set up to allow development, I guess, we'll put it that way.
As long,
Coordinate with the DEP as necessary.
the main component to that, Mr. Chairman, is as long as the elevation where the wall is and the grade where the fill was put in can't be compromised. So in other words, we couldn't lower the site even if we wanted to. Has to stay at the elevation where that cap is.
Okay.
And that's why, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Well, that's why I'm concerned if the state gets involved. Of course, they get involved in anything, never mind. I won't go to him. Yeah. I like the idea of the project and stuff like that because I think it cleans up that area well. But I just want to make sure not only protecting the town, but also yourselves in the fact that you know how the state works. They'll come, well, no, you're not doing that right. You know, so I just want to make sure that we have all the T's crossed and I's dotted before we end up making a decision.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mr. Chairman, because part of the final remediation is that because this site has the activity and use limitation on it, the state kind of gives the LSPs a little bit more jurisdiction than they would other professionals. That's why there aren't too many of them around, but so that's why it has to be done under strict supervision of an LSP. We can't do the work without it anyway, so whatever information the LSP shares with us or any documents, we have no objection to all that being included in the order.
Okay. Board members, Mr. McMullen.
Yeah, just a couple quick questions, primarily related to the regulatory history of the site with DEP. It appears solvents were identified on site, although the detections were rather inconsistent. Now, I know you guys are going to be a ways above the groundwater table, but if you have opportunities to assess the water or even deeper soils, I think it would be in everybody's best interest to kind of verify that there aren't any solvents in the soil or in the groundwater on the site.
I think that's part of an ongoing issue that has to be monitored anyways, but we'll bring that to the attention of the LSP. I'm sure you already knows, but good question.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm sure that has caught the attention of the LSP, and it sounds like you guys are coming at this the right way. I'm glad you already have an LSP involved. But I would be interested to see the soil management plan and the health and safety plan once they have that for you guys.
We'll certainly include that future submission. Yeah.
All right, that's all I have. Thanks, guys.
Mr. Ronan.
So on the soil management plan and health and safety, any idea when that will be available? Will that, can you forward that along before the next meeting, or can we get it at least by the next meeting, do you think?
Yeah, I expect it any day, to be honest. So I'll follow up again tomorrow. And but yes, we will certainly have that for the next time we come. Yeah.
And then my only other question was the wall. Is that an existing wall, or is that there's a portion that is going to be filled in or wasn't connected?
Right.
What's the status?
So yeah, the wall went along with the capping exercise, and I'll share the plan again. So the wall went with the cap. There's a portion in the back that was probably actually better highlighted on Dick's plan there, but it's in the rear of the site here. It just wasn't built, in part with the intention of that previous development, and that's where the stormwater management area was, and then we need access and things like that, but it wasn't built. So as part of
That's
this,
the only part that's the only section that wasn't built?
correct, yes. Yeah, all the rest of the wall is all in place. Yep.
99% of the wall is built.
Yeah.
Is the I didn't see the plans for the wall, and maybe I'm just missing it. I'm not sure. Are they included in the plans? The
So if I
design of
can
the
zoom
wall?
in, this kind of gray line, I won't go around the whole site, but this kind of gray line on ours, we have these TWs.
I meant more of the actual design of like what type of wall it is. Like, does it?
Oh, yeah,
Or any pictures of the wall and stuff?
sure. We did not include that. We certainly can, and the intent would be that it's a modular block wall. You know, it's nothing fancy. And that would be the intent to kind of fill what's missing.
Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Sheehan.
Yes, is this building going to be built on pilings?
I'm pretty sure it is, Mr. Sheehan. The architect, that's something that he'll be challenged with once we get approval to move forward. I know the building commissioner always asks for that anyways, but knowing the history of the site, we would recommend it anyways, even if it wasn't required.
Okay, that's all I have.
Mr. Walsh.
I got one question. Parking lot slopes significantly towards the street. Is there adequate drainage within the street to take the additional runoff?
So the intent is that the driveway entrances are porous pavement, so that runoff will be collected in the driveways themselves. You know, part of the grading challenge here is you have to very quickly get up high enough to get up to the top of the cap, because we can't cut that out. But we also can't cut out ponds near the driveway entrances for the same reason. We can't cut into the cap. So the idea was make that porous pavement, have the water not run off into the street. I'm sure this will get a close look from the DPW and town engineers. They do their review because they're also equally as concerned as you about runoff into the street. So we'll continue to work through it from this commission's perspective and with the DPW.
Thank you.
Okay, I just have one more question. Well, maybe it's two. Now, it's a commercial building, and you said something about are they fixing vehicles there, or?
So that the business operations, they have a lot of trucks that leave the site daily, go to the various locations, you know, do their work and come back. There's a garage bay that goes with the building. You can kind of see the striping associated with here. But my understanding, and if someone else knows differently, but my understanding is that it's really where they'll pick up new gutter materials or things like that. But it's not a repair shop. It's nothing like that.
Okay, so it's not going to be
Storage
something
of
with,
vehicles.
right?
Yeah.
I just don't
Mr.
wanna-
Chairman, just further clarification. The trucks associated with the business, if there's any repair work that's necessary on a truck or vehicle, it's not done at this site. It's done at an off-site location that, so just to
that was
clarify, nothing is done here in terms of upkeep, repair, maintenance. Any repair or maintenance to the fleet is off-site.
Okay, that was my question. I was leading to the fact we don't want to stop dumping more car oil or anything else into the ground that's already there.
Yeah, nothing of that sort would be done.
All right, I have no further questions. Brian, has anybody called?
We had no callers, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I did announce that this was a public meeting. I think I did several times. So since we have no callers, and we don't have a DEP number, you gentlemen fine coming back to the next meeting, or do you want the meeting after?
I think we're gonna hope to have everything for the next meeting. Can't speak for the town side, but that would be fine with us. And then I think we'd be able to share with you some more of the information on the LSPs, which is of great interest to all of you.
Okay. All right. With that being said, I am going to entertain a motion to continue to our next meeting on when's our next meeting, Stefania?
The 24th.
I'm going to entertain a motion to continue. Notice of intent of Mark Rocco, 1023 and 1029 East Street, map 103, lots 80 and 129, DEP number pending, to our meeting of March 24th. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. McMullen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Ronan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Sheehan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye Mr. Walsh, how do you vote?
Aye.
And chair votes aye as well. Gentlemen, we'll see you at our next meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you all very much.
All right, next on the agenda is request for extension of order of conditions, JDS Enterprises Incorporated, 940 and 960 Main Street. Map 47, lot 76 and 77, DEP number 3051022. Is there anybody here for that?
I wasn't sure if anyone was going to come, but it's a pretty simple request. They're just looking for a 3-year extension to the order of conditions.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that. Any question, board members?
No questions.
No question.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to request the extension of date of order of conditions, JDS Enterprises Incorporated, 940 and 960 Main Street, map 47, lot 76 and 77, DEP number 3051022, and we need to that I prepared. I need to see when we have to. We're going to give a 3-year extension from what date? Whereas of March 23rd? Is that the?
No.
So,
hold on. April 13th, so 2024.
Okay. So the motion is going to be request the extension order of conditions. Order of conditions to April 24th, 2023, you said?
April 13th,
April
2024.
April 13th, 2024. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. McMullen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Ronan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Sheehan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh, how do you vote? Chair votes aye as well. Okay, next is request for certificate of compliance. Harrington Buck PC for George Pusha, 20 Geddes Drive, Lot 10, North Billrica Road, Map 4, Lot 82, DEP number 305180. Is there anyone here for that?
Doesn't look like it. So this request is for a certificate of compliance. I looked back at some of the old minutes, and it looks like the developer came in for a subdivision, and then we're told to file for this lot separately. So it looks like this order of conditions was issued for the construction of the house at 20 Geddes Drive and the septic system. So,
And the septic system?
Yeah, but this was from the 80s, I think.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, no, this is from a long time ago. And so, I mean, they don't have an as-built, they don't have the approved plan to review, so it's tough for me to say whether it was built to the way it was approved. But there is a house there now. The subdivision is complete.
And we don't have anything. So you, based on what the information you have, they are in compliance?
I mean, I can't say that for certain.
That's because there's no order of
Because
conditions.
there's no plan for me to look at. There's no,
Okay.
so
I would suggest that we approve it based on the fact that since there is no plan and it goes back so long ago, I have to assume it's in compliance.
I
Board
did
members,
find in some of the old minutes, and these are minutes from 1985, that they came for a release of a few of the lots, and this was one of the lots that they got released. I mean, that's not an official certificate of compliance, but I mean, it was good enough then to be released.
right, I agree. Yeah. Board members, any questions?
No questions.
Okay, I'm going to make the recommendation that we approve the certificate of compliance for Harrington Buck PC for George Pucher of 20 Gettys Drive, Lot 10, Northville Ricker Road, Map 4, Lot 82, DEP 305180. Have a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Mr. McMullen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Ronan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Sheehan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh, how do you vote? Chair votes aye as well. Next on the agenda is request for extension order of a condition, Town of Tewksbury, various locations. DEP 3051048. Okay, Stefania, fill us in.
So I don't know if anyone remembers, there was a notice of intent issued a few years ago to do trail work and manage some of the conservation land. So it's supposed to expire this month with the state of emergency. It's still in effect, but they're looking for a 1-year extension just to give them enough time to kind of review the old permit and see if there's any changes that we can make.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that. Board members, any issues?
I have no problem.
No issues.
Do we know if any work has been done on these trails per this order of conditions?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, I don't have any issues with it. So are we going to extend it 1 year from today or 1 year from the end of the month?
1 year from March 7th, 2021. I guess I don't really know how it works with the state of emergency. I would just do it for 1 year from when it expired or was supposed to expire. So March 7th. March 7th.
All right. I'm going to entertain a motion to grant the extension for order of conditions, Town of Tewksbury, various locations, DEP number 3051048, for 1 year to March 7, 2022. Can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. McMullen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Ronan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Sheehan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Okay, now we're down to old business. Any old business? Any new business?
I have one question. Can we get all these packets electronically versus paper copies?
Like you want everything electronically?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I mean, I think that would be great.
Okay.
I
work,
don't.
I do everything digital, so it's easier for me to look at things digitally than.
Okay, so I can. If anyone else has a preference, let me know. I can just plan to save all the documents and send them out.
We'll see how it works for him. Keep us
Okay.
hard copy, and if it doesn't work for him, he'll give us advice on if it's working or not.
Yeah, I'd actually like
Because-
everything electronically too, Stefania, if that's fine with you.
Yeah, that's good. Fine with me. Okay.
So we'll have the 2 guinea pigs do it. Yeah.
I might have some issues with some plans being sent to emails. If that's the case, we'll kind of figure it out when we get there, how we want to handle it.
Well, even if you get it, if you don't have an email, you can always get it onto a flash drive or something.
Yeah.
And instead of picking up paper, you're picking up a flash drive. I just with some of the documents that we've been receiving, I don't see everything going electronic. But that's me.
Is it possible for you to print me out 5 extra copies?
Yeah.
Joking.
Yes.
It's my house is like a dumpster here with all this paper. Okay. Any other new business? The only thing I have is on the new business is, do we have any word when we're going back to town hall yet, or any indication, or are they working on it?
I have no idea. I have
Okay.
not heard anything, so I'm assuming.
Well, with the governor opening up all these restaurants and bowling alleys or so on and so forth, I just foresee that's coming down the pike sooner than later. So I just want to give everybody a heads up. We know it's not going to be next meeting, but maybe the meeting after, or maybe it's in the summer. I'm not really sure. But as the governor is loosening the restraints, if you can have 50% capacity, I think applicants are going to want to come to a face-to-face thing. And I'm not sure if we'll hear that from the applicants or not.
Yeah.
But just a heads up. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it too will be decided by when they decide we can no longer meet virtually, because that's what's allowing us to do this. So
Right.
once the governor says that that's not an option anymore, then we have to go back. And also, if there's any cap on how many people can be in town hall, then I don't think we can meet in person, because we can't turn residents away from the meeting.
That's
So
right.
we have to have unlimited capacity.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I have. If anybody has anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Can I have a second? Mr. McMullen, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Oh, I thought I was going to get him on that one. Mr. Ronan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Sheehan, how do you vote?
Oh, I want to stay here. Aye.
Yeah. Chair votes aye as well. Good night. We'll see you at the next meeting.
Good night.